Welcome to Morfanime. I'm your fan of more anime. How's everybody doing? Today, I'm going to be taking a deep dive into chapters 956 to 974 of the Wano arc of the One Piece franchise. Oh yeah. This isn't necessarily my Part 3 review. If you watched my last two One Piece blind reviews, you know I broke it up into Act 1 and Act 2, but it doesn't seem to be precise where Act 3 ends yet in Wano, from what I can tell. I've tried to research when to stop reading, couldn't find a clear answer, so I asked the Morfanimaniacs, and they let me know that chapter 974 is a great stopping point for these blind reviews, so why not? And I really do believe it was a great spot to stop. Honestly, at the end of chapter 974, if it said Act 3 complete, I would have been like, yeah, fair. Totally fair, because it had its own start and end to a long badass backstory, and then it also brought us back to what's currently happening in Wano today. I thought it was pretty well done. Like, this might be the best backstory in the series in a long time. My personal favorite backstory is Nico Robin's, but she's the best female character in all of anime, so that's not even fair. Most people's favorite backstory is probably Doflamingo and Law's backstory, which are kind of intertwined. And those are very good as well, and I completely understand that decision. But whoa! I never thought that Oda was going to get me to care about this Odin guy. But yeah, Odin, this guy, this badass. Ooh, I'm jumping too far ahead. But before we get to Odin, we do get a little bit of what's going on the outskirts of Wano, which I don't think that the rest of the crew, the Straw Hat crew, has any idea is happening. Like, what? I think the reverie's over. It shows Shirahoshi made it home safe. Garp guided her back under the sea. But he does mention something happened to Vivi from the Alabasta Kingdom, and he tells, I think he tells King Neptune, like, hey, you know, don't hate humans, like, we're good, we're cool, brah. Something's going on, but the government and the Marines are going to figure out what's happening. So, what's going on? Like, did they take Princess Vivi? Like, did she go into prison too? Like, I don't understand. We get to see Doflamingo again, just reading the newspaper, seeing what's going on in the world of One Piece, like just enjoying the show. I really love the fact that Doflamingo's still like in the shadows, in prison, of course, but I don't think he would be I don't think Oda would keep us informed on what's going on with Doflamingo if Doflamingo isn't going to be an important part of the story going forward. I started to theorize, I'm like, what is going on with Doflamingo? Like, there's no way Oda's just going to kill Doflamingo in prison, and there's no way he wouldn't keep bringing him up if he wasn't going to bring him back into the story in some way, shape, or form. So I was like, who could break Doflamingo out of prison? There's a few options. One would be Bon Clay, who is still alive and impelled down. He could. But why? Why would he? Why would he help him? If he has any information about Doflamingo, he might know that he's an enemy of the Straw Hats. Sorry about the shaky camera. My cat is just being an asshole about it right now. So the only person I could think of other than Bon Clay who's in the prison would be Magellan if he decides to go rogue. Because I don't know. Why would he do that either? Doesn't make any sense. So it couldn't be him. But my big theory is, what if Virgo, if you remember Virgo from back at Punk Hazard, what if Virgo is still alive? That's a theory to talk about right there. If you remember, Virgo was cut up into pieces by Law, and he was essentially blown up with the Smile factory where they were creating the stuff to make the smile apples. Was it the sad factory or the smile factory? I can't remember, because I think you use sad to make smile fruits. Either way, he blew up the whole factory with a diced up Virgo. But my thought process is, well, Virgo is a master, at least from what I could tell, of armament hockey. Even though he's in pieces, could have Virgo gone into armament hockey mode, right? He's a master of armament hockey. And then when the explosion happened, he didn't even seem worried when he was all cut up and they showed our boy Dofi talk to him, and he's like, "Hey man, thanks for your service. It's all we got, really." And I think Virgo smiled or something, and he kept looking at him, and then the explosion happened. Monet definitely died because she got stabbed in the heart by Caesar. Man, where's Caesar been, by the way? I mean, I really can't think of where he is, actually. So, if Virgo survived that explosion, he was tied up in separate pieces, like I mentioned. But if the explosion happened, all those pieces would be split up, and Virgo, being an absolute badass, would put himself together. He'd probably have something stuck to his cheek, of course, but he'd put himself back together, and he'd escape. I mean, I'm sure the Marines were, like, covering Punk Hazard as well. They could have found the pieces of Virgo, put him back together, and Smoker never turned in Virgo for being a secret pirate this whole time. They always thought that he was actually a Marine. So Virgo could have went right back to what he was doing. He could have been like, "Hey, thank you for saving me, Marines who came here to clean up this mess here at Punk Hazard and putting me back together. Yes, yes. Law did this, and he attempted to kill me. So let's raise his bounty." And Smoker. Smoker is the bad guy now, according to me. Virgo, his boss. Smoker's secretly working with the Straw Hats. He could tell them that, and they would believe him because he's a higher rank. I do not believe that Smoker turned him in at all. He didn't want his soldiers to think that Virgo never cared about them. So this is a possibility. Like, I really think this is going to happen. I think that Virgo is going to go to Impel Down, use his, I think he's a Vice Admiral? Could be wrong. He's up there, though, in rank. He leads, that whole crew down there, the G5 crew, whatever they were. So he could have used his rank, gone to Impel Down, and found a way to break out Doflamingo. And that's really where I think that Doflamingo's going to be. That's the only person left. Everybody else in his crew was either captured or killed off screen. So all he's got left is Virgo, who could seriously be alive and still infiltrating the Marines. Please let me know in the comments what you think about this theory, because I really do believe it could be a thing. Fujitora, he is, recovering from his battle with the Revolutionary Army. I believe he had to team up with the other admiral we know nothing about, the one who hasn't eaten in a long time. And they were talking to Akainu, and Akainu's like, "Man, you picked a terrible time to put an end to the Seven Warlord system. Like, we have some shit to deal with. Do you understand that the Emperor's Big Mom and Kaido have decided to form an alliance? Like, why would you deal... Not only do we have to deal with now Kaido and Big Mom teaming up, fighting the Straw Hat crew, some crazy shit happening in Wano that we know very little about, but now we have to go after all the 7 Warlords of the Sea, which includes Hawkeye Mihawk? We still don't know how strong necessarily Hawkeye Mihawk is yet. Like, what does that mean? Like, would Hawkeye Mihawk really just go, "Okay, well, I guess I'm not a warlord now. I might as well cause chaos"? Oh man. Like, if Hawkeye Mihawk is on Admiral level of power, maybe they should have thought about it. Like, okay, yes, the 7 Warlord system didn't work properly. It hasn't been around a really long time. It really hasn't. If you look into the One Piece, it hasn't been around too long. Maybe 20 years, maybe 10. And so maybe they can just make some adjustments, maybe scale it back a bit. Keep an eye on these pirates that are working for you. Scale it back, right? You have characters like Hawkeye and Mihawk who have not failed the government yet, who could still remain in the warlord system. Same with Weevil, who's brand new to the system, who seems very powerful as well, who has been taking out Whitebeard crew members, which is good for the Marines. So neither of these two guys have caused any issues for the Marines. Buggy, who they believe is very powerful, who they offered, hey, you want to be a warlord? Sure. There are people who have taken advantage of this. Law, Crocodile, Boa Hancock, and Blackbeard, for one. Jinbei didn't, he wasn't too loyal to the government. Fair. They're already out. No biggie. Go hunt after them. I'm sure you already were hunting those few. Go after Boa Hancock. Yeah, she's pretty hard to control, but I'm sure you have someone that can go after her. And I guess they do, because we get to see Drake, who actually isn't a pirate, I guess. He's actually still a Marine. And it makes me so happy that I was going to do my top 10 favorite Marines and or a Marine tournament of sorts on this page. And I wouldn't have included Drake because he's no longer a Marine, but it turns out he's a secret agent for the Marines, a part of this group called SWORD, which reminds me a lot of S.H.I.E.L.D. from Marvel. So if Drake is still a Marine, why didn't he end up in a fight with Kizaru back at Sabaody? Like, does Kizaru not know? Like, how deep undercover is Drake? Also, one of my friends pointed out the fact that Drake was in the Law flashback, like during when they were getting the up fruit for Law, the surgical fruit thing that he ended up eating. So now he's like super OP, where he can cut people up and whatnot. Drake was on that island as like a kid. And he has like he's got that little chin scar. Well, this is crazy. If Drake has been a pirate, so he's not necessarily a supernova. Does anybody in the Marines know other than Kobe? Because it seems like Kobe might be either a teammate of Drake's, either a subordinate of Drake, or a captain of Drake. Because it does seem like Kobe has gone up in rank. But I assume that Drake is bare minimum Vice Admiral level power. That's a lot to take in. He's working for the Marines, so he's not... there's so many shades of gray in One Piece, it's hard to tell who's on whose side. Either way, he's a Marine still, part of a secret organization called SWORD, working for Kobe. And Kobe... this guy, a guy who has been a part of One Piece since day one, who was technically Luffy's first crewmate, who is now, I don't believe he's a vice admiral, I think he's a rear admiral, something like that. He's getting up there. I really do hope that by the end of the series, Kobe becomes an admiral, because I think he deserves it. It is weird that he's such an important, integral part of this whole story, but at the same time, he's barely in it. But when he does show up, you're always like, okay, what's Kobe gonna do now? Like, after Wano, or maybe midway through Wano, if Kobe ends up showing up and trying to capture Luffy, like, Kobe stood no chance against Luffy at Marineford. He did unlock armament hockey during Marineford. No. Observation hockey. So he's probably a natural at that, since he did it without any formal training. It was more of like an emotional response. But he could be strong enough to contend with Luffy now. I almost feel like Kobe needs one more time skip, one more jump, and then to maybe be the vice admiral or an admiral that takes over for Kizaru or Fujitora if one of them decides to say, I'm done, I'm out, I don't care. But we all know that Kobe's a huge fan of the Marines, even though they've done some shitty shit. He knows there's good in there. There are good people in there. And if you can get people like Fujitora, like Kobe, into the higher ranking positions, maybe they can make some real change. I still don't know, like, is Drake a good guy? Is he doing this because he hates pirates? He must really not like Kaido if he's infiltrating his crew particularly, unless he was just assigned to that mission. That's like a suicide mission, because if they found out that he was secretly still a Marine, he would be brutally tortured. That's just bare minimum. So, Kobe's going after Boa Hancock because the warlord system's over, and that's just crazy. They've been talking about the warlord system ending since Dressrosa, but really, for the longest time as a fan, I've been thinking, this is a tainted system. They need to make some adjustments because this isn't working. Maybe just trust your Marine soldiers and not a bunch of pirates. And I feel the worst for Buggy and Weevil, who just became warlords. Just because their colleagues, former or previous colleagues of the warlord system, fucked the system up, doesn't mean that they need to give up this title. Why would they need to give up this title? This is a very big, important title to hold for them. It keeps them from being chased by the Marines. Buggy had a whole thing going on there, and they're just like, remember that thing we offered you? Yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. You're actually, you're just a pirate again, even though you did nothing with this title in the series, which bugs the shiz out of me. I really thought that we would see Warlord Buggy do some really cool stuff as a warlord, but off screen most of the time he was a warlord. Unless you count the 3D2Y anime-only TV special, which he's like a new warlord and he helps, take down Burndy World, but it's not necessarily canon, so you can't really count that. But in manga proper, Buggy really didn't do anything as a warlord, and that's kind of shade. And now he's on the run again. My only theory is maybe he's going to run to Wano. If he knows that Luffy's there, he could look for help there. I mean, his only other friend is Shanks. Maybe he's going to run to Shanks and be like, hey, bruh, remember when you said I could, be a part of your crew? Like, I need some protection. And you see, this is Alvita. These are my boys from the crew that I like, that I brought with me. And this is Mr. 3. We were like, we got nobody else. The rest of my crew, they got captured by the Marines. Can we please join the red-haired pirates? Please, Shanks. Please. That's the only thing I could think for our boy Buggy. But Boa Hancock shows up in her queen chair, and she's being told about what's going on with the warlord system. And she's like, I think they forgot. I think all the Marines and the government, they forgot why they made us warlords in the first place. Because we're strong. Like, I want to see Boa versus Kobe, because Boa ain't no slouch. I mean, you've seen her fight the few times she's fought. She's kept up with pacifistas. She kicked ass in that Stampede movie. Every time she's around, she's stronger than you think. Not just her love beam stone thing. She's always been much stronger than I expected. I think she's got a lot stronger. She's got Conqueror's Haki. She's got to have some strong form of armament Haki. If she's bashing in pacifistas, she's no slouch. And she's got an army of very powerful women at her side. I think Boa's going to be okay. I mean, if Kobe can take down Boa, that puts Kobe on another level, folks. Boa, I mean, Kobe, he's got to be at least at warlord status at this point, if he ever wants to compete with Luffy going forward. Weevil has decided just to kill everybody, I'm guessing. Like, well, I guess since we're not warlords now, we'll just attack the Marines. I don't care about Weevil so much yet, so we'll just have to see how that rolls. But yeah, the shit's going down. We get to see Sengoku explain to some of the younger Marines and Vice Admirals about who the Rocks pirates were and all the bounties of the current emperors of the sea. One of them that was really interesting to me is Blackbeard's bounty, which is higher than Luffy's, but much less than Shanks, much less than Kaido, much less than Big Mom. None of them were even close to Whitebeard or Roger. So, and what was did they show Rox's? I don't think they showed Rox's bounty. We get to learn more about this crew that Whitebeard was on with Big Mom, with Kaido, with Shiki, apparently. Shiki from the Strong World movie apparently was on this crew as well from my research. The Rocks crew seemed pretty cool. I honestly want that flashback. I want to see a young Whitebeard kicking ace, taking names as a villain, I guess. But apparently these guys were all taken down by a team-up of Roger and Garp. And Garp begrudgingly, I'm assuming, teamed up with a pirate. They do seem like they were buddies, but what does that even mean? I can't imagine they were able to take down Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, Rox, and Shiki, all in their prime, and a bunch of other guys they even mentioned that I didn't recognize, by themselves. Like, I know Roger and Garp are strong, but not these guys were in their prime. No, what if Whitebeard turned on the Rocks pirates? That's the only way I could see that working. Those three forces together, and maybe they just don't talk about it, or the government doesn't know about Whitebeard. Maybe the last second he turned on them, and maybe Whitebeard's the one that killed Rocks when he realized he's an absolute psychopath. We honestly don't even know if Rox was a good guy. Like, what if he was trying to take down the evil government this whole time? And he was just doing it in a ruthless, bloody way. Rox is probably a murderer, man. At least from the silhouettes I've seen of him, he looks like a scary fella. And if he was in charge of Kaido, Big Mom, and Whitebeard, he's probably a scary guy. But eventually Son Goku, after explaining the bounties, after explaining the history of, Garp and Roger, the secret history the government covered up, and they made Garp like the hero of the Marines, which he is, but they didn't want them to know that he teamed up with a pirate, especially the king of the pirates. They also bring up Odin from Wano at some point. He's just like, there's this other guy named Odin who seems to have connections with all of them. And then we go into this backstory. But before I get into the backstory, we do see Blackbeard. Blackbeard says, well, if the government's gonna take it, I better get in there and try and take it as well. Pack up your stuffs and get on the ship, me hearty. Sabo apparently is dead or something? I think he's dead. No, he can't be. They won't kill Sabo off screen. They just let us know. They really just let us know that he's still alive. But he apparently is in a bad situation because it shows the revolutionaries reading the paper that was just sent out by Big News Morgan, the big bird guy, who I'm assuming is a mink. I don't know. And they're crying, and they're like, this couldn't have happened to Sabo. And Dragon, Luffy's dad's like, well, we're going to find out the truth of what's going on. And if Garp was there, he looks at Sabo as like an adopted, grandson. So what's going on? Should I know what's going on with Sabo? Because they were very vague. We get to see Kinomon as a young man, was he a samurai at the time? I'm not sure. He had a sword, I believe. But Kinomon's kind of a thug. He takes some old legendary pig from these two guys, and he runs away with it, and he's like, oh, I'm going to go trade this for money. I think he was a gambler or something, but Kinomon was not as strict samurai code type guy that we know today. He even had bleached hair. Was that bleached hair? Was he really just looking like a thug type thing? Was the whole gimmick? Because his hair was white. It's in the manga form, so it's all black and white. But my guess is he bleached his hair because he's he's too cool for school. He goes to town and he's gonna sell this pig for lots of money. Turns out this pig has a gigantic mountain monster of a mom boar thing that's running through town looking for her son. And Kinomon's like, shit, what do I do? And apparently this pig ate Kinomon's like future wife, who always helped him because she was captured by the bandits that Kinomon beat up to take the pig in the first place, but then the pig found them and ate them. So Kinomon's sad and he's like, I gotta go stop this pig. Odin is just going around being Odin, eating soup and drinking sake off of a burning corpse of somebody he knew. I didn't really understand that situation, but he's like, next time we see each other, we'll be drinking in the afterlife. And he sees Kinomon in dire straits, and he's like, hey, give me the baby pig. And he does, because, Kinomon's in an emotional state, to say the least. He gives him the pig. He takes the pig, and he says that he did this. Like, he took the pig. He takes responsibility for Kinomon's actions. And even Kinomon tries to say, no, I did it. And he's like, shut your mouth. And then eventually Odin cuts this damn boar in half, like down the mouth. I think the boar ends up living through this somehow. They cut out the people that apparently this boar ate whole, including Kinomon's future wife. Kinomon is so grateful to Odin, and Kinomon's friend Danjiro, who's like this kid with glasses, and they both decide, we want to follow you, Odin, with or without your permission. These two head off. They're like followers of Odin. Odin's like, go away, I don't want you around. It's kind of like Luffy's Straw Hat Fleet. That's kind of where I saw Odin's kind of like Luffy in a way. Like, he wants to go on an adventure. He wants to leave Wano, even though he's the future daimyo or emperor of Wano. He's like, I want to get out of here. I want to see the world. I don't want the borders to be closed. So eventually he gets banished from the kingdom because he took responsibility for the boar incident, the great giant mountain boar incident, and he goes out and finds the shittiest town in all of Wano that is controlled by like a bunch of thugs and bandits and rogue samurais, and he jumps in and they tell him, oh, you can't come into this town and you can't ever leave again. And Odin's like, I don't like that. I don't like that people can't leave once they come in here. So, because I want to leave Wano. So he ends up beating up everybody single-handedly. I don't even think Kinomon or Danjiro helped him with this. He took them all out single-handedly. He takes, I think his name is Asura, the big guy that we meet in part 1 of Wano and 2, that actually becomes one of the Scabbards of Odin. He makes him he ends up reforming these thugs, and he turns this into a thriving town. And I think he becomes the daimyo or emperor of this town. His father's like, oh, cool, he's fixing some shiz out in Wano. He's redeeming himself. And he finds other people like Raizo and, just different really strong folks that we've met, his Scabbards, and he's bringing them together. He meets the minx, the dog something, and cat viper, Dogstorm and cat viper. He meets Kappa, the fishman dude that we meet during Act 2 of Wano. They're being tortured by people because they look different. And Odin's like, hey man, if you're just going to torture these guys just because they look different, but they are normal people. They explain to Odin that the minx and the samurai the samurai of Wano have a bond. We're supposed to help each other. We came here. I think that they came there in seeking adventure as well. But this whole time, Odin, he gets to come back to the family. He gets, brought back in. He's going to be the next emperor of Wano when his father dies. He's done good. He's even said like, hey, I haven't changed at all. You're the guys, I just been me, Odin, and I'm fixing stuff in this town, and we're going to open the damn gates of Wano, and I'm going to get out of here one day. And luckily for him, Whitebeard crash lands in Wano somehow. I'm not sure if he went there on purpose, but his ship gets damaged. Odin shows up, clashes with Whitebeard. You even get to see a young Marco, which was really cool. I'm not sure if he had his Devil Fruit power yet. But a little kid, Marco, who isn't like a badass just yet. And Odin's like, hey, please, Whitebeard, let me be part of your crew. Let me go with you. I am a terrible sailor. I have tried to escape this island like 30 times, and I've failed every single time. Luckily, I don't have a devil fruit ability, and I haven't drowned yet. So Whitebeard tells him, hey, if you can hold on to my ship for 3 days while I sail away, and I'll let you on the ship. So they start taking off, like he grabs onto this rope and he's sailing around. One of the Scabbards that follows Odin, I think is an Izu or something. We met him back at Marineford. He's the brother of Kiku, who we met in Act 1 of Wano. And they kind of look alike. That was kind of cool. He ends up following Odin because he's like, hey, what are you doing? You can't leave. And he goes with Whitebeard and eventually falls in love with the idea of being a pirate, I guess, and never goes back. I'm not sure if that guy's going to show back up during the war or not. I don't think he's dead unless Weevil killed him. Either way, he bounces with him, and the two Dogstorm and Cat Viper go along as well. But they don't have to hold onto the ship for 3 days, which seems very unfair. On the way, before he finishes his 3-day survival on the back of this boat, he meets his wife, who's in danger, and he meets her, and she explains that she came from 800 years ago, which is crazy because I believe that connects to the 100-year void. Oh, that's so exciting! I don't know if his wife is alive or not, but it seems like her devil fruit to time travel is very important. So either we're going to see that again, the devil fruit in particular, or we're going to see her again. Theory from me. She ends up joining the Whitebeard crew too. They fall in love. They have Momo. They end up going on forth from there to, adventure with the Whitebeard crew for many years. This is a long time. I honestly didn't realize that Odin was part of the Whitebeard crew at all, let alone for many years longer than he was part of the Roger crew. Like, this dude traveled. He's been places. He's seen things. Eventually, they run into the Roger crew, who have a kid Shanks and a kid Buggy. I can't believe Buggy is so connected to all these things. Like, Buggy was in the beginning of this part of the story as a warlord, turning back into a pirate. And now we see him in the flashback as a little kid during the prime golden years of Goldie Roger. And he's here, part of the crew, fighting the Whitebeard crew, side by side with Shanks. Another person that's in this flashback is Blackbeard, a child Blackbeard who seemed to be an orphan, who joined the Whitebeard crew. Oh! I did not realize that Blackbeard has been part of the Whitebeard crew for this long. Did you guys know that before this? Did you know that Blackbeard has been part of this crew since childhood? Almost, I don't know how old he was, maybe 13, but he was a kid. He's been part of this crew for over 20 years. That's insane. I knew that Blackbeard was on the Whitebeard crew longer than Shanks, because I remember Ace asked Blackbeard, are you cool with me becoming the second commander because you've been here longer than me? And he's like, nah, I don't want the fame and the fortune. I just want to follow people around. Got a little boiler hat on. He looks like a little tough little fat kid. And Buggy even says, hey man, we've been fighting for a few days now, and that dude hasn't slept the whole time. And he says something to the effect that he's never slept before. Kind of like how could Blackbeard never sleep? He doesn't have the awake fruit or anything like that. How could he not sleep? That doesn't make any sense. I would like to know. It seems like a thing that Oda wants to point out to us particularly. But Shanks has a specific answer to that when Buggy tells him. He's like, he never sleeps? Oh, he must have twice as much fun, because he's up all the time. He gets to live twice, 2 lives, because he never has to go to sleep. I mean, he gets 8 hours more a day than everybody else, is what Shanks is trying to tell Buggy. So he looks at it in a positive light, I guess. I found it weird that the Whitebeard and the Roger pirates fought for a few days, but no casualties. Not one. I'm assuming they all paired up against opponents that were kind of similar in strength. That's my only guess. But it would have been crazy if like one of Roger's crew members just like slit the throat of Buggy and he's like, I took out a weak one, sir. Don't worry, he's done. He won't be a problem anymore. We're going to beat these guys. And Roger looks at him like, why would you kill him? He's like, because they're your rival crew members? He's like, and we're enemies, and we're trying to take their treasure, and we're pirates? And he's like, no, we're not killing kids. He's like, but they're pirates, and they're our opponents. Like, why wouldn't I go after the weakest ones and work my way up? We can build our numbers here. Whitebeard has more numbers than us. We start taking out the little ones, you know? And then Roger kicks him off the crew or something for not understanding that we're just fighting for fun. Eventually, you know, they have a ceasefire, they have drinks, they trade treasure. But Roger finds out that Odin can read the poneglyphs. And he's like, Whitebeard. He begs Whitebeard, bows to Whitebeard, and he says, can I please take Odin for my last voyage? I am dying. Come with me, please. Even Whitebeard's like, ugh, I don't like this idea. It even takes Odin saying, I would like to travel with this man. Like, in only a few days, only fighting with Roger and partying with Roger, did Odin go, I respect this guy, and I need to see where he's going on this final voyage. We get to see them go to Skypiea. I mean, Buggy went to Skypiea, people. That's cool. Shanks went to Skypiea, people. That's cool. We find out that Buggy and Shanks never went to Laugh Tale, the final island, which is named by Roger. They get to see the treasure. I think they all start laughing when they see it. What is the One Piece? What is it? What is the One Piece? I'm starting to think it's not treasure, and I'm starting to think it's not friendship. I'm thinking it's got to be something important. Roger pirates end up disbanding, and it was funny because Odin's like, well, none of us cried because we are men. And they're all bawling their damn eyes out. They're like, why? I would love to watch a Roger flashback like movie or series where we get to see where Roger's crew came from the beginning of the Grand Line to the end. It doesn't have to be too in detail, just like a 3-hour movie about Roger's life on the seas. I think that'd be really fun. I hope we get that when the series is over. I really do. Eventually, Odin goes home to his wife, to his kids, who were back at Wano because his wife got sick. Izu, I think his name is, he ends up staying with Whitebeard's crew. Dogstorm and Cat Viper go back with him back to Wano. They all come back to Wano, but they find out this whole time, while Odin's been gone on his adventure, a guy named Orochi, the current emperor of Wano, who teamed up with Kaido, has been ruling in Odin's stead this whole time. He's been there, and he found a way to get in there thanks to an old lady who's part of his clan, I believe, and an old man. One of them has the barrier fruit, just like Bartolomeo, and the other, the old lady, has the face-changing thing that Bon Clay has now. So I'm assuming they're dead, these old guys and gal. And she transforms into Odin's dad and uses that to manipulate the people of Wano into thinking that Orochi is Odin's best friend and he will be the perfect temporary emperor. And by the time that Odin got back and he finds out what has been going on and all the mischievous stuff that Orochi's been doing, it's too late. They've been taking slaves. They've been building weapons. They basically tell Odin, hey, how's this? In a few years, if you just dance like a fool in your underwear in every town once a week, I'll pay you. It'll be your job. And we'll leave. And we won't kill anybody. Every time you dance, it saves like 100 lives. Something weird like that. Something that no ordinary person would believe. But apparently Odin believed it. And Odin danced like a fool, acted like a fool, and they ruined his name for many years. And when it finally came down to it, they didn't leave. They didn't leave peacefully. Odin's like, I'm done. I tried to do this without bloodshed. But boys, it's kind of like when Luffy put the hat on Nami back at Arlong Park, one of the best arcs pre-time skip for sure, and puts it on her head. And he's like, come on, boys. We're going to take out Arlong and his crew. But this was at a bigger scale. Odin's like, we're going to go take out Kaido. Like, he had no fear of this Kaido guy. Odin must be pretty powerful if he could take on Kaido. And that makes me think that Roger was like twice as strong as Kaido. So Odin and his samurai suit up. They get their swords. They're ready to rock. They've been waiting for Odin's commands. They've been waiting to take this dude down for a while. So they go out and they're like, all right, but they get stopped midway. And they're like, how did they find out we were on our way to beat them up in their town? And Kaido's like, well, we know of your plan and we don't want to fight you. We just built our empire over there this last few years and you've been acting like a fool. So they end up fighting, having a damn insane war. Some of the ninjas turn on Odin, the same ninjas that ambushed Nico Robin in Act 2. The lady ninja, though, is like, no, I'm going to stick with you. It is interesting because the whole time when I noticed that the ninjas were turning on Odin, I was like, what if Rizzo is the spy? Because they do keep referencing there's like a spy within Odin's like crew. And I was thinking, well, if the ninjas are the ones turning on them, it might be Rizzo. Because remember how Jack made it to Zoe? And Rizzo was the only samurai ninja there, all tied up. And they weren't going to give him up. But what if the whole time he was, working for Kaido, and he's just like, this is great. They're going to protect me, and they're just going to all get wiped up. But he was all chained up, so I don't know. It could have been right. The whole time I was like, it has to be Rizzo. They do reveal. But either way, they're winning. Odin is winning. He causes damage to Kaido. Eventually, that old lady who can transforms into Momo and pretends to be in trouble. Gives Kaido just enough time to take out Odin. They end up capturing the Scabbards. They capture Odin. They put them in boiling hot oil. Well, they're about to. And Odin's like, hey, if I can stand in this oil for a time decided by you, a specific amount of time decided by you, Kaido and Orochi, I will let my people go. You can still kill me, but let them go, please. They tell him, you stand in this boiling oil for 1 hour. And we'll do that. And this whole time, there's been this little tagline that Odin's been saying, like, I have been born to boil. And when he gets into this boiling oil, have you ever put your finger accidentally in boiling hot oil while you're about to fry some French fries or something? It hurts. And it burns your skin almost instantaneously. So my assumption is Odin just covered his lower half of his body in the most armament hockey you could ever imagine. And held his crew on top of a big board with his arms in the air, which is very hard. If you ever held like a 45-pound weight above your head like this for any long period of time, you know your shoulders are going to get sore within 5 freaking minutes, let alone an hour. He's holding on a big board, which I don't know where he got this big board, maybe from the ninja lady. His crew, the samurai crew, are up there, including the traitor. And he's holding them, and they make it the entire hour. And by that point, Kaido and Orochi are like, nah, kill him. And they start shooting arrows at him. And Odin throws his crew on the board, and he's like, run. And go find Toki, my wife. She's got a power that's going to help, and she's going to send you 20 years into the future. They end up killing Odin on the spot, dead. Oh, that was so sad. It was so sad. Odin dies, a badass. The people see him, and they start spreading the legend of Odin. Even though some people remember him as a fool, a lot of people start remembering him as a badass. They get away. They find Toki, they get Momo, they go into the future. Turns out that Danjiro, the kid I was mentioning earlier that's part of this samurai crew, is actually the bodyguard of Orochi now and has been secretly working with Momo's sister this whole time undercover. Oh my god. And they pretended to kill her. Mind blown. And he somehow like changed his hair, so it's like this Pompeii type thing. And he changed the color of his hair, so he just looks a little different. He said like the demon of hatred has infected me, so it changed the way I look. I don't know. I like this Danjiro guy. I wonder where he's going to come into play here, because he still hasn't revealed himself to Orochi. Maybe he'll secretly just kill Orochi. And for some reason, he didn't have to do this right now, but Kanjuro, the guy we met back at Dressrosa, is the spy this whole time. And he tells them, I'm the spy. I've been part of Kaido's crew this whole time. It wasn't anybody else. It was me. Like, he didn't have to say that. He could have took the blame and pushed it onto somebody else and made it even worse. I didn't really care about Kanjuro until this point, but apparently he can draw really well. He's been used, and he creates a Kanjuro clone that can speak and reveal plans. Kinomon kills the clone. That shows Kanjuro, he took down the lady ninja. It would have been crazy if he killed her, but he captures Momo, and he's like, ha, my last act of my evil plan as a undercover, because I guess he's related to Orochi, is to take Momo to Kaido, and that's it, and that's the end, and I could die happy after that. Then, you know, all of the beast pirates show up, and they're like, this is going to be so easy. There's only like 8 samurai here, a couple minks. Oh, yeah. They start firing on them, and the samurai are like, well, if we're going to go out, we might as well fight. But before they can even start fighting, Law, Kid, and the Straw Hat Pirates all show up on their ships with their crews ready to fight. And that's kind of where it ends. That's where chapter 974 ends. Luffy's like, hey, I know this is Wano, but when you're at the sea, you're going to be fighting pirates, bitch. And now they're there. We still don't know where the rest of the samurai went, or if they've been captured or killed, the ones that didn't show up because the plan was leaked. So many questions, but a lot of answers were given, at least about Odin and Momo. Like, I now know more things about them. And poor Momo's in trouble. Like, who's going to stop Kanjuro? I feel like Kinomon has to be the one to stop Kanjuro, because that seems like a great opponent for him. I didn't think I'd like Kinomon as much as I do now, but like after that flashback, I kind of understand him more. I understand where he's coming from. I understand he was never a perfect man like he acted like he was when we first met him in Punk Hazard. He's not, he wasn't always this formal samurai guy. He was kind of a thug. He went through some shit. And Odin saved his life. He saved his friends' lives. But as soon as I saw Kid, Law, and Luffy and their crew show up, I was just like, yeah! The first half of the flashback was kind of slow, and I was like, okay, Odin's a cool guy, he's a badass. But then the second half, when Whitebeard showed up, to Roger, to the Poneglyphs, to Blackbeard and Shanks and Buggy and all that fun stuff, and then Odin standing in the boiling water, like that shit was peak One Piece, and it makes me so excited because the war with the Beast Pirates is about to begin, and I'm on the road to chapter 1000. My next video is going to be chapters 975 to 1000. And that's where I'll stop and go from there. This is Morfanime. What do you think of this very long-winded review? Did I miss anything of importance? I'm so excited to see what happens next. I can't believe I got 55 minutes of content out of one big flashback and a few things that are happening outside of Wano. Nothing went down really with the Straw Hats this entire time, which is just insane for me to think about. And Oda kept me just glued to these mangas. I couldn't look away. And now, let the war begin. Please subscribe. I'll talk to you later.